President, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to the celebration of the 50th anniversary of FITCE. And thank you also to the Italian Association, the ICT, for the organization and for the work it's doing in Italy. Thank you to the technical committee and to its chairman, Professor Battalaro, for having organized a very high quality event here in Palermo. For me, as a telecom engineer, it's a particular honor to be here. But sometimes regulators are also engineers. It is not often the case, but sometimes it happens. And I believe that indeed the engineering community has an important task in the future to come, and FITCE has to look now to the next 50 years. Well, I would say probably to the next 50 web years rather than calendar years. And as you know, web years are going much faster than calendar years. Web years, probably 50 web years, it's 10, 8, but probably the next 5 web years, so the next 2 years, 1 year and a half, will be crucial for our sector and the European economy in general. And I think this Congress comes in a difficult moment for Europe, but probably at the right moment. Because I believe ICT is one of the responses how to get out of the economic crisis and how to boost growth. That is priority number 1 for Europe. Actually, I believe ICT is a low-cost answer to the difficult question how to push for growth. I think looking first of all to applications, that when you look at what kind of change ICT can introduce in the health system, in the public administration, in the transport system, the logistics, in the power distribution system, you are looking at structural changes of parts of the government infrastructure and parts of the production system of Europe. And those changes are, first of all, savings for the troubled finances of the European member states. I would like to quote the numbers that have been calculated by the Industry Association Confindustria for Italy. Structural changes by introduction of e-health in Italy, smart grids and e-government are savings round about of 35 billion euros, which is more or less the size of the emergency package decided in August by the government. But there's a notable difference between an emergency package and savings that you can get through ICT, that these savings are structural. They are there to stay. So they are basically securing change in the society, growth, and at the same time a more efficient state infrastructure and the way the state gives services. Time is not enough to go in detail in the various possibilities that are given in applications. But let me just say that through the introduction of e-health, you can actually reduce the cost of mean time to stay in bed, the time of treating patients, the time and the cost that you need to have the bureaucratic system of the health organization in each member states. And so it's in Italy, for instance, 9 billion of saving in terms of the health system. The same goes for smart grids. It has been calculated that more or less with the use of smart grids, 15% to 20% of the national electricity bill can be saved. And again, we are talking about billions and billions of saving. And I can go on with this list. So the point is why politicians are not so aware of the potentiality of ICT. And that is, I would say, partly due to the difficulty probably of this sector to make clear what are the goals and what are the possibilities of this sector, and partly to the cultural heritage that Europe has in terms of its political class. Of course, to deliver services, you need an efficient infrastructure, and that's where the engineers are coming into play. That's where we are coming into play. And then you need a favorable condition in terms of new technology and the way this technology is delivered, the products. And also, as I was mentioning at the beginning, you need awareness, and that's where FITCE comes into play. I believe that organizations such FITCE are here to raise the awareness of the importance of the ICT sector. And they do this, they can do this, and as I will say in a moment, much better, or they complement stakeholder associations such as industry association, because they are people organization. Now, when we look at the first challenge, which is delivering services or infrastructure, I noticed that most of the technical program will be devoted to this. So it will be devoted to new generation networks, will be devoted to how to use efficiently radio spectrum for delivering 4G services, broadband services. In other words, looking again at the service side, it will be devoted to the evolution of the Internet of People and the Internet of Translation between people, so the exchanges of video, voice and messages in real time through the net, and the Internet of Things. So the possibility for millions and billions of sensors to rely information that are actually the ones that are needed to make the health system or the smart grid system to function. So these are the challenges. I mean, how to make sure that the Internet of People things will be delivered efficiently in Europe. It is sad to say, but it's important to say, that Europe has lost the leadership in telecommunication that they enjoyed in the 80s. And I think it's fair to recognize this, and it's a starting point for the reflection of the next 50 years of FITCE, probably. Why it is so? I mean, there are many reasons, but for me the most important one is that because Europe misses the scale, economies of scale and scope, which are necessary to boost ICT in our time. So it's very important, the effort that the Commission is doing to build an internal market in the ICT. That is really the priority number one. It is not just a priority for this sector, because as I mentioned, it's a priority for growth. Building an internal market is also blood and tears. It is not just, I mean, a nice walk into an internal market. It means consolidation of industry, means streamlining of regulation and regulators. My colleagues don't like to listen to this, but this is the reality. Europe cannot, I mean, probably sustain tens of telecom operators, cannot sustain 27 different regulators. This is, I think, one of the reasons why we need, world has changed, Europe has changed, we need now to accelerate our reflection. When we started the reflection on the new policy in telecom sector 4 years ago, the world was different. Under my chairmanship of the regulators group, I was told many times, wow, we don't need so much harmonization. Look at the financial markets. They are going so well in a deregulated way. We should do the same in telecom. We should not look at streamlining regulation. Of course, the world has changed. And now Europe has realized that in financial market, there's the need of much more coordinated way of acting. Funny enough, the solution that have been found 4 years ago, 5 years ago for telecom were advanced at that time, and now are up to date, are outdated. So I think this sector has now to really reflect very quickly on how to build an internal market. One of the most important examples where we need the vision of internal market is the policy on spectrum. And now I start to wear my second hat, that is I'm vice chair of the radio spectrum policy group, that is the advisor in Europe of the European Commission and Parliament and Council on policy matter related to radio spectrum. Europe needs quickly a lot of spectrum. This first chunk of digital dividend that now has been auctioned in Italy and in other member states is the appetizer, But I mean, to realize what I mentioned before, the Internet of Things, you probably need something like other 500, 700, somebody saying 1 gigahertz of spectrum more. This means that you cannot fragment the spectrum. This means that you have more and more to look at the generic allocation of spectrum. There cannot be a community saying the spectrum is mine, it's just for my application. So spectrum should be allocated in much more neutral fashion and generic fashion, and there should be no barriers among member states, because if we start planning the spectrum like 50 years ago when FITCE started to operate, I mean, we basically deny that there's been an history in telecom in Europe, and this is more or less what's happening in spectrum. I mean, still member states are coordinating spectrum like 50 years ago. Things have to change very quickly in the interest of Europe. Every time I mention that one of the objectives of the National Broadband Plan of United States is to be, for United States, #1 in the world for spectrum technology and spectrum utilization. So, and I remember to all of us that we come from the GSM experience when Europe was leading. So I think starting from spectrum, but then going to NGN and other key development topics of our sector, the internal market issue is a priority issue. Another point is, and that is a point where, of course, FITCE can give its value added, is streamlining the objectives and the research in Europe to make sure that policy goals, research goals, they go along together. I think at that, let me also point at Italy. I mean, there are various political option, a policy option for ICT and for ICT research. And as the Commission says, every member state should have a digital agenda. But what I'm saying is that there are a sustainable digital agenda and unsustainable one. You cannot probably cover all objectives of the digital world. I think we have to recognize that there's the need of focalizing the efforts, there's the need to point to winning horses. And if we look at the experience of Europe, the experience of Europe is clearly in the direction of value-added products, is in the direction of bringing quality to ICT and bringing innovation. And that's where Europe should recover, and that's where I think the forum of these days and FITCE will be instrumental. So I believe that all this, I mean, a sort of low-cost recovery receipt for the economy based on ICT, focalizing the effort, really pointing much more strongly towards an internal market, are things that need to be done. Still, I have to note that the awareness in the first level decision makers in each member state, in Italy, but this is probably the same in other member states, is not so high. So I believe that FITCE, being a people organization, can help a lot, because what happened in our sector is that the industrial organizations sometimes give contrasting messages to decision makers. They, for instance, say, deregulate the market because otherwise we cannot compete with over the top. At the same time, other organizations are saying, over-regulate the market because otherwise we cannot compete against the incumbents. And I think decision makers get a little bit of confusing messages sometimes. A people organization like FITCE that is looking at the development of this sector can give a sort of neutral message, which is very useful and very instrumental. That's why I look forward to the debate of these coming days. I look forward at the work that FITCE will do in the next 50 years, I would say in the next 50 web years. Also because, I mean, 50 web years are in the reach of our careers, and we all would like to cooperate and, let's say, bring our contribution. So, thank you for inviting me, and I wish you very good work in the prosecution of the conference. Thank you.